All right, welcome back to the deep dive.
Thrilled to be here.
Today we are diving into one of the core ideas from Robert Greene's The 33 Strategies of War.
It's called Control the Dynamic, the Force strategy.
And forget just having the bigger stick.
Right.
This is about something way more strategic,
Much more so, yeah.
dictating the flow of events themselves.
That's it.
So right from the start, the book makes this really interesting point about power. We tend to think of power as something that you possess, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
More money, more troops, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But Greene is saying power is also something that you enact.
Yeah, more of a verb.
It's a verb. By seizing the initiative,
Exact.
making your opponents react to you.
Yeah.
So for everyone listening out there, think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Are you typically the one responding to events?
Right.
Or are you the one setting the agenda in your own life?
I like that.
That's what we're going to unpack today.
Yeah, and this is the distinction, too, between playing offense versus defense, right?
That's a great point.
Are we on our heels all the time?
Yeah.
Or are we pushing forward and really dictating the flow?
You know, it's funny because even on a personal level, I find when I'm reacting to things all the time, I end up feeling much more stressed.
You feel behind, right?
Exactly.
Like you're not in control.
Yeah.
When you're setting the pace, it's a very different feeling, I think.
Absolutely. You feel calmer, more in control.
Absolutely.
So to make this a little more tangible, let's bring in a historical figure.
Okay.
Someone we all know, Alexander the Great.
Huge name.
Huge name.
What comes to mind for you when you hear Alexander the Great?
Well, military genius for sure, battlefield tactics.
Absolutely.
But the book makes this point about Alexander's strategic approach overall. And I think that's where we see this control the dynamic strategy in action.
Totally.
So what was it about his approach that was so different, so effective?
Well, he never waited for the other guy to make a move. You know, the Persians, huge army, right?
Right.
He didn't sit back and wait for them to attack.
Right.
He was always on the move, always pushing forward.
I see.
Always the aggressor.
And by doing that, he's...
forcing the Persians into reaction mode.
Okay.
Always trying to keep up, just scrambling. They could never fully leverage their size.
That's interesting because their army was so much bigger than his.
Yeah, way bigger.
But he was able to negate that advantage by controlling the pace.
By forcing them to respond to him.
Exactly.
Instead of the other way around.
And I think that's a huge takeaway for anyone in any kind of competitive situation.
Yeah.
Whether it's business, sports, whatever.
Absolutely.
If you can make the other side constantly react to you, they can never quite get their own strategy going.
That's right.
They're always one step behind.
Always on the back foot.
So Greene breaks down the benefits of this dynamic, this control of the dynamic, into 3 key points. The first one being...
you immediately put your opponent on the defensive. They're preoccupied with just trying to block your moves.
Yeah.
They're not even thinking about how to attack you.
Right.
They're just trying to survive.
Yeah, it's like if you're trying to solve a puzzle, but someone keeps shaking the table.
Right.
You can never focus.
Exactly, and it just takes all your energy, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's the first benefit.
What's the second one?
You limit their options.
Okay.
I mean, drastically limit their options.
How so?
Because they're so busy reacting, they don't have the space, the time to think creatively, to come up with their best move.
So they end up
making predictable choices.
Right, they're kind of backed into a corner.
Exactly, like a cornered animal, yeah.
So by setting the terms of engagement, you're not only putting them under pressure, you're actually making them easier to predict.
That's right.
Which is...
a pretty powerful advantage.
Yeah, a huge advantage.
Yeah.
All right, so the third key benefit.
You maintain the initiative.
Okay, now this one might seem kind of obvious.
Yeah.
But I think it's worth emphasizing.
It is.
Because whoever has the initiative is dictating the flow of the entire game.
That tempo, the energy, it's all flowing from them.
And the person reacting is always...
trying to catch up.
One step behind.
In planning, in execution, everything.
Right, always a little bit out of sync.
Yeah.
Now, I think what's really cool about this strategy is that it's not just some ancient military tactic.
Yeah.
It's incredibly relevant today.
Very much so.
In all areas of life.
Absolutely.
So let's look at some modern examples, starting with business.
Okay, yeah.
What's a company that comes to mind when you think of controlling the dynamic?
Well, Amazon, for sure.
Amazon, yeah.
I mean, they're the poster child for this.
How so?
They didn't just play the existing retail game, they completely changed the game.
Right.
Massive e-commerce, cloud computing with AWS. They forced everyone else, traditional retailers, other tech companies,
to react and to try and imitate their every move.
which they're still doing, by the way.
Absolutely, still doing.
Keep trying to catch up.
You know, it's interesting because by being so early and so dominant in those key areas, they were able to create these really powerful network effects.
Exactly, yeah.
Making it incredibly difficult for anyone to compete.
Yeah.
Because they're always a step ahead.
And not just a step ahead, they're always pushing forward.
Right.
New initiatives, new territories.
Always innovative.
While everyone else is just trying to digest the last move.
Yeah, constantly keeping the competition on their toes.
Totally.
So let's shift gears a little bit and talk about leadership.
Okay.
Particularly in politics.
Oh, yeah, good one.
Because in the world of politics, controlling the narrative is everything.
I mean, it's crucial.
And the best politicians, they get this.
They do.
They don't just sit back and respond to scandals or criticisms.
No.
They're proactively shaping the public conversation.
Yeah, they're framing the issues.
Exactly. They're setting the agenda for debate.
They're controlling what we're even talking about.
Right. It's not damage control. It's agenda setting.
Exactly.
And this control the dynamic principle, it's not just some grand strategy for companies and countries.
No.
It actually applies to our personal lives, too.
At a micro level, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, think about setting boundaries in your relationships. That's a really key way to control the dynamic on a personal level.
How so?
Well, when you proactively communicate your expectations and limits, you're shaping how other people interact with you.
Yeah, it's about respect.
It's about respect.
Yeah.
But if you don't set those boundaries, you risk constantly reacting to other people's needs and demands.
Yeah, and ending up resentful and drained, right?
And getting walked all over, basically.
Oh, exactly.
Okay, let's bring in another modern example.
Sure.
A big one. Elon Musk and Tesla.
Oh, yeah, perfect example.
Because Tesla's entry into the electric vehicle market
was a total disruption.
A total disruption.
I mean, they came out of nowhere, seemingly,
right,
and took over.
And they didn't wait for government mandates or for the big automakers to lead the way.
Nope. They pushed the boundaries, the tech, the design.
Everything.
Forced everyone to adapt.
And I think what's really impressive is that they didn't just meet existing demand.
No.
They created new demand.
Absolutely.
And they set the benchmarks for everyone else.
Yeah, it's still happening today, right?
Still happening today, yeah.
All the other car companies scrambling to catch up.
So the lesson here, as Greene emphasizes,
control the dynamic.
Control the dynamic.
And the competition will always be playing catch up.
Always be behind.
Yep.
All right, so how can we, the listeners, how can we start to apply this in our own lives?
Yeah, that's the key question.
Well, the book really stresses the importance of making the first move.
That's right. Don't wait for things to happen to you.
Don't be passive.
Go out and make them happen.
Exactly. Identify what you want to achieve.
Yeah, have a vision.
And then take that first step.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be some huge, massive action.
No.
It's just about initiating.
Taking that first step.
Getting the ball rolling.
And that puts you in control
right,
of the direction, at least.
Of the direction of the momentum.
Yeah.
And on the flip side, the book has a pretty stark warning.
Oh, yeah.
About the dangers of being passive.
Of just letting things happen to you.
What's the risk there?
You become a puppet, Greene says.
A puppet?
Yeah. You're just reacting to other people's initiatives.
You're not really in control of your own life.
You're not the author of your own story.
You're just along for the ride.
Exactly.
And it's not a very empowering feeling.
Not at all, no.
So to really drive this point home, let's bring in another historical giant.
Okay.
Napoleon Bonaparte.
Ah, Napoleon, yeah.
What can we learn from his military campaigns?
Lots, I think.
Through this lens of controlling the dynamic.
Well, he was a master of speed and surprise. His armies were incredibly fast. They would strike first.
Before the enemy even had time to react.
Exactly, catching them off guard.
And even when he was facing larger armies.
Which was often the case.
He would use his mastery of tempo and maneuver.
To keep them off balance.
To keep them on the defensive.
Exactly. It was brilliant.
And I think this really highlights how controlling the dynamic can neutralize.
And even overcome.
Seemingly insurmountable disadvantages.
Absolutely.
Like being outnumbered or outgunned.
Yeah, sometimes speed and agility are more important than size.
Right. It's not just about brute force.
It's about being smart and being proactive.
Exactly.
But there's also a cautionary note here.
Okay, what is it?
It's not just about rushing in blindly.
Right, it's not recklessness.
No, it's about calculated, strategic action.
So controlling the dynamic requires...
planning.
Yeah.
And patience.
Yeah, it's not always about being the fastest. It's about being the smartest.
Right. Knowing when to move, when to wait.
Exactly. Finding that rhythm. And what happens when you lose that balance?
Between speed and strategy. Well,
Yeah.
Hitler's invasion of Russia is a perfect example of that.
Okay, how so?
Initially, the Blitzkrieg was very successful. The Germans were moving fast, taking territory.
They were controlling the dynamic.
Absolutely, but then they overextended themselves.
They got greedy.
Yeah, and they didn't secure their supply lines.
So when the Russian winter hit,
They were completely unprepared.
the Russians were able to turn the tide.
Yeah, using the environment to their advantage.
So controlling the dynamic, it has to be coupled with
Logistical planning.
strategic depth.
And a degree of patience.
Okay, so let's bring this all together.
Yeah.
What are some concrete steps our listeners can take?
To start applying the strategy in their own lives.
Today.
Yeah.
All right, so step 1.
Make the first move.
Make the first move.
Don't wait for someone else to initiate.
Whether it's a conversation,
Yeah.
a project, a new opportunity.
Take the initiative.
Seize the moment.
Yeah. Be the one to set things in motion.
Okay, step 2.
Set the tempo.
Set the tempo.
Then your interaction.
And negotiations,
Yeah.
discussions, even arguments.
Don't let the other person dictate the pace.
Control the rhythm of the exchange.
Yeah, speed it up, slow it down.
Keep them guessing.
Keep them off balance.
Okay, step 3.
Employ surprise.
Surprise.
Yeah, this doesn't have to be some elaborate scheme.
Right.
It could be as simple as approaching a problem from a new angle.
Or offering a solution no one has thought of.
Yeah, anything to disrupt their expectations.
And give you the upper hand.
Exactly.
Okay, step 4.
Manage the information flow.
Manage the information flow.
Control what information you reveal.
And when you reveal it.
Yeah, because that shapes their perception.
It shapes the narrative.
Yeah.
And it prevents them from anticipating your next move.
Exactly. Keeps them guessing.
Okay, step 5. The final step.
Stay calm.
Stay calm.
Especially under pressure.
Yeah. Maintain your composure.
Because if you get flustered, if you get emotional...
And use control.
Yeah, you become reactive.
And the other side can take advantage of that.
Absolutely.
Okay, one final modern example before we wrap up.
Sure.
Apple and their product launches.
Ah, Apple. The masters of hype.
The masters of hype. How do they control the dynamic here?
They control the entire tech news cycle with their product launches. They unveil new products on their own schedule, generate huge amounts of speculation and excitement,
Right.
and everyone else has to react.
Yeah, they're setting the agenda.
For the whole industry.
And everyone else is following their lead.
Yep.
Okay, so as we come to the end of our deep dive today, what's the core principle that we should all take away?
From this exploration of controlling the dynamic
True power.
is not just about strength or resources.
It's about shaping the course of events.
It's about dictating the terms of engagement.
It's about being proactive, not reactive.
Exactly, being the one who makes things happen.
Not the one who's always responding.
Yeah, it's a fundamental shift in mindset.
And it has applications in every area of life.
Yeah, from business to personal relationships.
So here's a final thought for everyone listening. Think about the challenges you're facing right now.
Yeah.
Are you in reactive mode?
Just responding to things as they come up.
Or are you taking steps
to control the dynamic?
To force others to react to you?
Yeah.
To set the agenda?
To be the one in control.
Because that's where the real power lies.
That's where the magic happens.
Thanks for joining us today on The Deep Dive.
It's been a pleasure.
We'll see you next time.